This is a sculpture that I found at Lake Eola. The name of the sculpture is Take Flight, created by the artist Joe Blomberg. Since there are no lines in real world, the perceivable lines here are curved lines and straight lines. For example, the edges of the wings are mostly curved lines, and the body of the birds are mostly straight lines. The shapes in this sculpture are also just perceived reality, since this is a three-dimensional sculpture. There are triangles and some free-form shapes. The overall shape of the sculpture is close to a triangle. The forms in this sculpture are spindles, such as the bird's body, and some irregular forms, like the wings. Overall, the lines, shapes, and forms in this piece are used to create simple, accurate, and cohesive bird forms. The color palette and tone are pretty simple. The creator just used an affinity tone of silver throughout the whole sculpture. In terms of space, the sculpture has an extensive width, a somewhat low height, and very shallow depths. It is understandable because the sculpture is by the riversides. Viewers usually only observe it from one side. The movement of the sculpture is very clear. The birds are moving from left to right, and they first dive into a lower point, then take off. It creates a dynamic flow of the bird's flock. The use of the highly reflective chrome covering the entire piece also gives a sense of movement. The movement is definitely the emphasis in this whole piece. Finally, the rhythm of the sculpture is pretty tight. All the birds are pretty close to each other, sometimes overlapping with each other. It creates a busy yet ordered impression. However, the creator separated the flock at 2 points. He separated a small flock and located them to the left, and he also left a gap in the middle of the big flock. This design is the reason of the sculpture.